A small race car on a small racetrack is a recipe for big excitement, and that is just what is on tap today. From the tight confines of Lime Rock Park, it's time for the Sim Stickers SRF Weekend Warrior Season 7 debut event. Round 1 means every driver is tied for the lead. Mathematically, every driver has an equal chance for the championship. Realistically, there are only a handful of drivers with legitimate hopes for a title. But a new season brings new blood and perhaps a new, previously unknown threat for the crown. Who will get off to a good start? Who will dig themselves a hole to climb out of? In just a few minutes, we will know, because all the on-track action from green flag to victory donuts can be seen live to you as it comes live as it happens. That's right here on the Global SimRacing Channel. From the land of steady habits, hello and welcome to another GSRC broadcast. The hardest working man in sim race broadcasting, Joe Peak, joins yours truly, Bill Soups on, to bring you our bird's eye view. Sean Crackers Ambrose has director duties, armed with cameras locked and loaded by Dougie Beer. Joe, for a track as well known to iRacers as Lime Rock Park is, surprisingly, we at GSRC don't seem to come here very often, which in my mind is kind of a shame, because this little track is a challenge to drive and more times than not, a stage for really exciting racing.
Well, I think as we've gained more and more series starring higher-powered cars, organizers tend to shy away from Lime Rock more frequently. You've only got 7 turns spread over 1.5 miles, which is about 2.5 kilometers. Combine that with the fact that there's only one heavy braking zone, and it's like the Bristol of road racing. Thankfully, the SRF is almost perfectly suited to this track. It's not a terribly fast car. And yet, in spite of that, you're still looking at sub 1 minute lap times. Even operations of this track are a little weird. Being right next to a church, they have an agreement with them to only race on Saturdays so as not to disturb the services. It's effectively a leftover of American road racing in the 50s when it was built. Like Europe, there wasn't much concern for safety, and the thrill of high speeds and challenging layouts really dictated the sort of circuits that got built. Even though it has been updated with some chicanes in the real world, this virtual version on iRacing remains in its 2006 format. That's going to make for one wild race considering our field size. So before it gets flocked by cars, let's take a solo lap around with the GSRC Lap Guide.
All right, we're in the GSRC MX-5, so let's do a lap around Lime Rock Park. Down in a Big Bend, this is usually your best and only place to try and pass on the track. You'll take it into this first apex pretty fast, let it bleed off speed as you drift out in the middle of the corner, and then bring it back in tight for the exit. Switch sides quickly because the left-hander comes up fast. There'll be a temptation to turn in too early, but this corner needs a very late apex with it leading into the S's. You might need a hair of a lift through the kink of turn 4 just in case you catch the inside curve, but in the best case scenario, you're flat out. The no-name straight is going to weave back and forth slightly, so straighten it out. Then brush the brakes into the uphill. Be sure to keep the wheel straight as you come over the crest, or else the car will want to come out from under you. Hold to the left side of the track and give it a small lift into West Bend. Watch out for the inside curve because it can unsettle the car and there's not much runoff on either side. Plunging down into diving turn, breathe off the throttle and tuck it right into the groove. If you got it right, you'll be back to full power to give you the best run onto the front stretch once again. And with that, you've now finished a lap around Lime Rock Park.
A trip around Lime Rock Park, and it will be challenging. Now, talk about challenges. Life can be challenging for men in the modern world. Don't let it get you down. Talk to someone. Support for Guys wants to listen and wants to help you realize the potential of a happy life. Their goal, to help you find new ways to cope with life's ups and downs. The approach is simple. Find what works for you and support that new path for a better tomorrow. A counselor is waiting to listen. Visit their website, supportforguys.com. You don't have to be a local. Just visit supportforguys.com and you can find that happy life you've been looking for. And now, talk about ups and downs. Let's talk about the challenges of the last season. Let's bring up those point standings. If you've ever wondered why Errol Num has been dubbed the Rolling Estonian, then here's an example of just how that nickname came to be. After missing the first 4 races, Num showed up to the series and proceeded to win 5 out of the last 8 events. And thanks to the magic of 4 drop races allowed for in the rule, steamrolled his way to the championship by 32 points. David Gasper was well on the way to the title until the Rolling Estonian came onto the scene. Jerry McAreevy, well, he had 1 season win in season 6. Now, despite only 1 podium, Daniel Sadro, well, he held on to 4th. Missing 5 events kept Jason Perry from being higher up in the graphics. The name that's missing from the overlay is the driver known as Grease Lightning, Dimitrios Houdaloutas. He won the first 3 events before summer vacation took him out of the series. While still a member of the league, GSRC doesn't see a car number assigned to Houdaloutas, so it looks like Grease Lightning will stay in the bottle for season 7. And we can take that down, look at the beautiful Lime Rock raceway out there. You know, there's something new for this season. There is a second championship along with the overall championship. There is the Sportsman's 2 class for drivers who are, let me be politically correct here. We'll call it iRating challenged, okay? The S2 drivers can easily be identified today by their car numbers, as they will be racing 3-digit numbers, all in the 200s. There have been a few tweaks to the rules, so let's bring Joe Peak in here again to help us understand just what some of those changes are.
Well, as we look at the event details, we are in round 1 here, and this is the 7th season that they've run this. We've been covering quite a bit of it, but this will be the first time you'll see the whole thing here on GSRC. One thing that is the same is the fuel levels. The setups are open again as well, so drivers will be forced into 1 pit stop here in these 40-minute races. Now, the points, they are effectively rationed, as it were. That's the best way to think of it. They are spread across, so they're never quite the same. It'll all depend on how many cars show up. The winner will always get 100, and last place will always get 25 points. So you can't really gain by having a very small field. You need to show up and you need to do well. Now, they do have penalty points as well, and that's for incidents. Each 10 incidents you have in a race gets you 2 penalty points, so you want to race clean. There's your incentive to not abuse the track limits. And once again, just like last time, they do have a free repair that these cars will probably need at some point today with this very short track and with a lot of cars. Thankfully, it's not a full 60-car field. We've got about 37 of them out there today, but even still, getting damage, not going to be ideal, and at least a few drivers may duck into the pits unexpectedly to try and get a free car. Bill, though, it's the warm-up has been looking pretty good. I haven't seen a whole lot of accidents, and the times are looking pretty decent.
And let me confess, I talked about Dimitrios Houdaloutas not being assigned a number. Oh, but Grease Lightning is here today, so keep an eye on him. He currently sits, I think, 6th in the qualifying time. Good to see him back from summer vacation. We also saw him race, I believe, in the season opener, Joe, in the Lotus 49s, if I remember right. I think he made an appearance there.
Yeah, showed back up there as we saw him at the start of last season in the 49s, and he performed well. But honestly, I think the performance here today is going to be a little bit more challenging than maybe what these guys have been practicing. And they try to mimic real-world temperatures. And because of that, Bill, if you look at the weather, 81 degrees is kind of a warm day, but look at the track, 109 degrees. And that's actually gone up 1 degree since I last looked at it. So it is rising out there. The drivers are going to be slipping around, which is not what you want in a car that tends to not like fast corners.
We talked about new blood coming in. We're looking at him right there. Kane Halliburton. How about this guy? Currently sitting 2nd in qualifying. We don't know him. At least I don't know him. but he seems fast. Of course, he's behind the Roland Estonian that most any fan of GSRC knows.
But look at the top three up there and look at the gap. Now, in most tracks, Bill, like 1.5 tenths seems like not a whole lot. But again, this is a sub 1 minute lap. So he's got that much time. And then compare that to the drivers behind him. There's about 7 100s between Halliburton and Shaw. And actually, Shaw and Staney are currently tied on their time right now. And then behind them, it's 3 1000s to Fraser Williamson. So the top 5 are all within a tenth, or well, from second to fifth, I should say, are all within a tenth of each other. So Iro Nam, he might have gotten a little bit of draft, but even with draft, that is a monstrous gap for this track.
I talked about this track. One of the things I like about this track is it really demonstrates racecraft. Now I'm going to confuse the viewers here when I say this. It's easy to make a pass here with the toe. If you get a nice toe out of the final corner, you can make a pass down into one. But Joe, it's also really easy to defend your position as well if you take that defensive line into one.
Oh, absolutely. Passing is going to be at a premium today. You can get the draft, but these drivers up at the top, they're smart. They're also driving at the limit, for one thing. So the draft really isn't going to help them too much in terms of that, because the straightaway, even though the front stretch is the longest, it's not long enough to really have a huge effect. These cars tend to punch a decent hole in the air, but this is certainly not Watkins Glen, Bill. It's going to be a very hard ask to try and jump someone. I think pit strategy is going to be very important, especially if we get a front pack working together.
And 40 minutes in a fairly large field and a fairly short track, Joe, I would imagine lap traffic also playing that.
Oh, yes, you bet it will be. Now, some of that will come down to how well you deal with that lap traffic, being able to read the cars ahead, how well you know your competitors, what kind of driver they are when it comes to lap traffic. Are they going to pull out of the way readily? Are they not really going to give you much of a chance to get through, as we see Michael Shaw having some problems there in qualifying? But then there's that random aspect of drivers who are farther down, who, as you put it, Bill, are less talented, shall we say, that might lose it in front of you unexpectedly. And then you got to have really good wreck avoidance skills, not just lapping skills.
And there are some corners here, Joe, where the wall is really close as you come up to the hill, to the uphill. That wall is right there on the left-hand side. And then that gets to be corner number 5, the left-hander that sends you down.
Yeah. We've got the uphill, we've got West Bend, and we've got the diving turn, and all just pretty much have the wall right there waiting for you. And really, honestly, on either side, it's pretty common that you'll see drivers spin out of the diving turn, Bill, and find the inside wall instead. And you're going at a high rate of knots, at least for this car, when you come there. So there's very little saving it. This goes back to what I was talking about in the track description, Bill, where this is still the 2006 scan of this track. iRacing has said that they still are very eager to get out there and rescan it, but they're waiting on some last little changes that Lime Rock is doing before they go out and get that info. And I'm pretty eager for that, honestly, because that'll make some more passing chances, because there's a few chicanes. I know it sounds weird that I'm excited about chicanes coming in, but this track is tough in its current form.
Yeah, I think any improvement on the old chicane that we have here would be an upgrade. They don't race that one anymore. That one is challenging. We ride on board here with Fraser Williamson, another newcomer to the series.
Yeah, but very familiar to this car. We see him race in the Week 13s pretty often. This driver, this Bushfink driver, is pretty fast, as you can see, by currently top 5 in the qualifying. So I expect him to be in that top group if we wind up having a train of cars up at the front. So don't count Fraser out. He could be up for a win here if something sneaky happens, but he's going to have to survive all the chaos around him.
And of course, if you want to play the GSRC consumption game, with this being a new series and the lead commentator not really doing his homework and practicing some of the new names, every time I butcher one, go ahead, take a sip. Of course, we recommend you do it with non-alcoholic beverages. I'll be better next time around as we get used to these guys.
We have one that's a lot easier. Jomo has had his name updated. You can have names changed when you run a league, which this is, and I guess he's either asked or Steve, the organizer, has decided to change it. We know that he likes being called that. I was pretty tickled when I saw that his actual name on our timing and scoring is now Jomo.
That's good. It is, Jomo. It is. It goes on for a long time, so we get to know him here. It's kind of like Cher and Madonna.
Yeah.
one name is all you need for him.
All right, qualifying's just about done here, Bill. So it's down to the wire. Drivers are going to have to finish their hot lap and see if they can improve.
Still Errol Num up there. Big name that's missing. David Gasper's not here today. Not sure if he's scheduled to return for this series. With 4 drop races, it's not mandatory you make everyone.
Stevie Ray certainly not going to improve on his time. That's it for him as the checkered flag is out. Let's see who else is still out there trying to improve. Looks like Andre Bertoni coming around right now as he's just about to finish, and he's going to abandon the lap. Kern is not. Kern's down in 19th with a 59.3. Again, just the slightest improvement could bump you up spots, but it's not to be for him.
And with that done, let's go to the grid now because we have a fairly large field. On the front row, it is the Roland Estonian and defended champion, Errol Num. Kane Halliburton is going to be outside him. Michael Shaw and Jason Staney go in 3rd and 4th position. Row 3 populated by Fraser Williamson and Steven Elson, a veteran of this series. The Grease Lightning, Demetrius Houlodoulis in the 7th position, flanked by Daniel Sadro. David Stefani in 9th. He's going to be inside of Felipe Chavin. Joe?
Zachary Rivard starts in 11th with Kim Risberg. I was out in practice with him earlier, starting 12th. He's got pretty good pace. Antonio Reese starts in 13th. Steve Ray, even though he couldn't improve his time, look at that, 14th. A familiar name to iRacers all over the world. Nim Cross Jr. has decided to come and join us, and boy, he's pretty fast too, starting 15th today. Andreas Bertoni is going to be in 16th. At the drop of the green, it'll be John Fisher behind him in 17th, then Chris Murakami starting in 18th. Bob Kern will start P19, and the top 20 are rounded out by Fred Desai.
Hidden blackjack is Kelly Nyquist. Wayne Palmer in the double duck spot. Jens Nordstrom in 23rd inside of Donald Federer. Mihail Vasilescu in the 25th position inside of Jomo. Todd Hansen in 27th, Christopher Smith in 28th, 29th, and 30th. Go to Essa Numi and David Burnell.
Gary Wolbolt will be in 31st with Dale Benison starting 32nd, Nico Schuch in 33rd, and Francois van Dornveld in 34th. Jeffrey Murphy starts P35. Jefferson Padavani starts in 36. Jeroen Ursum has come and joined us. Glad to see him out here. He'll be 37th. The last 2 cars in the field did not get a time in. Guillermo Crevo in 38th, and Wendell Lowe starts 39th. Full track here today, Bill.
Full track and a full pace lap around as we get ready to get Season 7 underway. Boy, GSRC is sure glad we're back, but Joe, like you said in the pre-race show, we are back for each of the 12 events this season. That's good news. Easier to follow a championship when you get to see every event. We'll be here every Sunday at this time, so mark it down on your calendar.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to really follow the stories a lot more closely. I mean, we can still check up and see how the races went on the days off of how we were before, but there's something special about getting to see them each live and watching and following the points as they update each round. And I think it's going to be a bit harder this season based on the participation we're seeing here at the start. More drivers, Bill, tends to mean more talent comes in.
And the new point system is going to be a little harder for the drivers to open up those big points lead. Only a 10-point difference between first and second, 100 for winner, 90 for second. 4 drop races also means that if you make a mistake, it's not going to end your season. Plenty of room for mistakes there. Drop races make it a little harder for the drivers that aren't quite as fast to have those consistent and win by consistency. You're going to have to hope for a lot of mistakes from the leaders as we begin to roll. Look at us on that Batman cam. I like it. Oh, that's a good shot.
Now, one thing to watch out for as they start to head through Big Bend here. We talked about the dangers in the last 3 corners, up the uphill, West Bend, and the diving turn. But one thing to remember, Bill, is that both Big Bend and then this one, the left hook, those are both corners that require a very late apex, and you have to carry speed and kind of bleed it off through the corner. Now, I talked a little bit about it. This car tends to not like fast corners. Well, it especially doesn't like corners where you need to lift and bleed through them because it has that dangerous lift throttle oversteer. Expect to see a lot of drivers in both those first 2 corners. Well, effectively, I guess they're considered 3. To spin a lot, to whip the car around because they're going to lose it as they find they've entered too hot and the rear just loses grip.
That's a new corner name for me, the left hook. I'm going to assume you're talking about the only left-hand corner on the track, right? Number 3?
Yes, I may have actually confused that with the left hook at VIR, actually. I need to double check that. I think it's just called the left-hander.
All right.
I like the left hook better, though.
Left hook sounds good. Well, right now, we're going to get ready to go. The pace car is going to peel off here in a minute down pit lane. Is going to turn it over to the Roland Estonian Aaron Lum, multi-time champion in multi-series here on GSRC. Look at them backed up. Oh, my goodness. They got checked up, and there's some banging going on, but everyone's still going straight. Gather at the chicken steak, covering on the cows. Errol Num leads the stampede down into the first corner. Kane Halliburton on the inside of Jason Staney. Shaw and Williamson are your top 5, Joe.
Yeah, only had one victim of the checkup, and that was Jefferson Padavani, who unfortunately met the Armco. He's come in early for a pit. That's not going to be good for him because I don't think you can get to the end on the pit stop now.
The parade of cars negotiate the left-hander, and now it's up the hill they go.
Yeah, this can still be a little bit tricky over the crest. The car really doesn't get too light. Well, as we see, as it comes back.
Tell that to Fraser Williamson, who almost lost the car when it got light.
And you saw Ellison saw it happen. He tried to react in time, but it wasn't enough for a pass. That's how difficult, even with that big slide, Bill, Ellison is stuck behind him, which is not what he wants, because look at how the top 4 are starting to stretch away.
Right, and that's what the front 4 want to do. They want to make that train as small as possible, and Williamson's mistake might do that, but here they gather up now into one.
Looking mostly single file. A few cars are ducking out, but really no successful passes. Nim Cross had a go at Andre Bertoni, but that one didn't go off. Otherwise, it's really, you got to go way back in the field before anybody's side by side.
Yeah, Chris Mercami is the caboose of this 18-car train. I talked about the front 5. Let me tell you who's doing the back half of your top 10. Steven Elson, the Grease Lightning, Demetrius Houdadoulis in there as well, Zachary Rivard, Daniel Sadro, and then David Stefani.
I tell you what, good news for Fraser Williamson is he took no time at all to catch up to this top group. He's actually dropping Ellison a little bit still. So we could see maybe a 5-car breakaway. We'll have to watch and see if Steven can maybe pick up the pace and get within the draft.
I got to be careful because I don't want to speak it into reality, but Steven Elson is a really talented driver that always seems to find misfortune. So we'll see what he can do right now. Currently in 6th, racing in that number 56 machine as they work lap number 3 of this 40-minute race.
And we're already starting to see, whoa, that's Staney getting loose.
Woo, right in front of Shaw, but he gathers his back up. I don't think he's going to lose a ton of time. Scared me, though.
And I was just about to talk about Staney because he's doing some cooperation with Halliburton. He's been giving him bump drafts the last 2 laps down the front stretch. He's trying to see if they can stick with Ironum or maybe even get a little bit of run on Ironum by working together. He's going to have to gather it back up, though, with that big moment coming out of Big Bend.
There are no official team. Oh, Num gets loose. Num gets loose, and they're all going by him.
Little bit of contact. It looks like that was Michael Shaw, I think, who had to go off track to avoid him. And look at this.
Woo!
Car streaming by. That yellow car going through is Stefanini.
Yeah. Stefanini scoots right through. Nice job.
Bumps him up to 6. And wow, they're still stacked up as they try to sort things out. Look at the effect that this had. It's a chain reaction.
Yeah, well, when the leader goes off track like that, what happened, he got the right sides up on the curbing there through the west bend, and that really threw the veteran off into the wall.
Kim Risberg had to try and sort himself out, and he's in 18th now.
So what that means is we have a new leader, Jason Staney, up in front of challenge for second, Halliburton and Fraser Williams.
This is a boon for these guys because the gap in qualifying that Nome had made it really a daunting task to try and pass him. Now they can duke it out amongst themselves. They just don't want to fight too much, or they could allow Eero to get back in it. He is only 3 seconds back from the leader there in 8th. Oh, and we had a car off. That is, oh, Reese.
Antonio Reese on the front straight.
And as we look at the replay here, Bill, this is the other danger of this course. These curbs are pretty tall, and this car does not like when you bounce over curbs. So when Reese got up to that, he just clipped it a little bit too hard. The car started bouncing around, and you could see there was no catching it after that.
Now, for those fans watching from Estonia, don't count Errol Num out. Remember, there is a fast repair. His car is really damaged, but if you can just hang in there. Joe, when there is a fast repair and there is a pit stop, that really makes it kind of challenging. If you look, there's a battle for second. Right now, we can go to that. I think Fraser Williamson might make a pass going down into one. Let's see if he forces the issue. He's got to run, and he's just going to wait.
Yeah, he's thinking long term. This is very smart.
Oh, but
meanwhile, behind them, yeah. Rivard going on the inside of Stefanini, and he gets that done. Smooth pass.
And Huladulis goes around Elson for fourth position now. So Grease Lightning on the move.
Curious to see now that things settled down for Nome. Last lap was a 59.2. So that's actually a little bit faster than what he was doing before. He had a 104 first, 58.8 for the second lap, and then a 102.2 on his third. So he must have made a mistake on the third lap. It was the fourth one that he had that big error. Interesting stuff. Not sure what's going on with Num then today. Maybe he doesn't like the high temperatures.
The good news for him is, though, he can use some cars as stepping stones. He can get up to the back of Stefanini and Zachary Rivard.
We've got a big incident. John Fisher is going tumbling, and more cars are piling in. This is in West Bend.
Well, he was stopped on the track. It was John Fisher. The car was just dead center.
Let's take a look at the replay. Oh, my goodness. This is a horrible one. Now, what exactly happened here? He just halted.
Yeah. That's just not where you want to park the car. And then many cars got around him, and then poor Mikhail Vasilevsky got right into him.
I mean, sometimes you can have hardware failures, like your screen goes out, but again, like you said, you don't want to stop the car in the middle of the track. It's better to just let it pull off and have an accident.
I imagine he was waving his virtual hands over the top of his helmet saying, "Here I am, look out."
Well, that is really disappointing for a number of drivers because there's heavy damage to a lot of guys that just could not see that coming. You don't expect a car stopped for no reason.
Now, Joe, one of the things we didn't talk about is we'll go back to P8 position. This is a nice battle coming on here. This involved, look at this. I talked about stepping stones, and Num is already caught up to the back of Rivard and Stefanini here. Is fuel strategy. These cars, you can actually hear save fuel.
Yeah, this is a case of those drivers up front. Maybe that's what you saw with Williamson a couple laps ago where he could have passed, but he decided not to. It's advantageous to spend as little time stationary as possible. That's always the case in any series during pit stops. Same thing here with the SRF. The less fuel you have to take because you're not changing tires, the quicker you get back out, you can jump your competitors.
If you look at that second train, I'm going to give you a number, all you little soldiers in Soup's clipboard army. From Elson in 5th position back to Rivard, I guess, who would be in 6th. That interval is 3.2 seconds, and it's growing. So the front guys are actually moving. And with that said, Williamson does make a pass on Halliburton. Williamson now moves up into 2nd.
It's a little bit of motion happening up at the front. But wow, the gap between Staney and Williamson is looking pretty hefty at this point. Oh, but a big mistake off of the S's. Oh, wait, no, that's a lapped car.
Yeah, that's the lap car getting out of the way of Jens Nordstrom. Does a good job of pulling over. They keep coming, though. Careful.
Yeah, great job. This is going to give him a nice little hole that he can get back to racing at pace.
Surprisingly, as a traditional back marker, I can give a little expertise on this track. This track is rather easy to get out of the way on if you're a lapped car. There's nice places where you can lift and still keep a pretty good lap time going on.
Well, and not only that, but you can make it very difficult for the other car to pass you if you're in a battle and the leaders are coming through. Just cover off the inside, lift and let the leaders through. And did I just hear somebody hit the wall?
I think, yeah,
or an engine blew or something.
Yeah, I think an engine blew. Ben Kravel just had an engine blow. We continue to look at this battle for 15th here between Cross and Shaw is in the mix as well. And there's that mint color that you feel like it's in the bowl after you're done at a restaurant. There, you pick up one of those things, take the cellophane off, and pop it in your mouth. I'm talking about Chris Murakami's paint job, man. That is refreshing.
Like I said, it always reminds me of the old Rising Sun flag, Japan's.
It does, yeah.
Which, based on his last name, I think that's what he's going for. But we're watching Nim Cross Jr. at the moment, who's sitting in 15th. He's actually moved down one from where he was a lap ago, as he just got passed by Murakami. So not really making much inroads in the race, but it's still a long race to go. And I think we got a taker. Michael Shaw's headed into the pits.
He was part of that group. Probably says, gee, I think I might be faster without you guys. I'll come in here, get this done. See if I can run some hot laps. So he's our first taker of anybody inside the top 20.
Probably looking for a faster pair. Look at the damage there. Yep, and it pops into place.
Oh, can we get Kelly Nickett, car number 303, on a replay? Because it also involves Nim Cross that we were just looking at. Now is falling well down the order. Nick, now this is into one. Nickett gets loose, and I think it just kind of scares Cross. Then let's stay on it because he then makes more contact with Fitterer. So we're going to be a while on this replay here because there's a lot.
Well, and actually, he was just making a pass on Murakami, so he was on the outside line. Oh, actually, what happened was Nim spun off the track because he made slight contact there with Murakami.
No, we'll go back. Here we go. So we'll look at this. Now, this is ahead of Nickett, who was off in the grass. So this is the contact between these two guys. Now, Director, if you can go ahead and get to Nickett here. There we go. We'll watch him. Now, watch as he comes back on. Seems everything's going okay. Then he finds more trouble here. As the car goes around, the car not feeling well, and he gets together right here with this guy. Quite an adventure.
Yeah, unfortunately for Nickett there, this has been a bit of a long day already, and we're barely halfway through, or not even halfway through this race.
Now up front, the race is still Staney, Williamson, Halliburton, Houdeludis, and they've dropped Elson. Elson doing his best to hang on the back, but he's lost touch with the front four.
Yeah, and if anything, he's got a bit of a hard charger coming up on him, which actually is a battle behind them. Rivard and Stefanini are going at it. Boy, Rivard is aggressive because Stefanini is all the way down to the... Look at how far he covered him off, and still he's going to get through. David will not be denied. But Rivard, the reason I wanted to talk about him is he started this race in 11th. He was in 6th. He's now down in 7th. But even still, that's 5 position gain. And that's hard to do when you're up at the top, the sharp end of the field there, Bill.
Now, Errol Num should have been in that group somewhere. So I have to see if did he pit or has he had problems?
He had to have pitted. Let me see if I can find him.
Yeah, he took his stop. Okay, so he's fallen back to 17th now. But he'll get a fresh car. And right now he's behind Wayne Palmer.
And this might seem like a mistake to some drivers to pit early because he's going to be back in the thick of slower drivers. But what you pointed out, Bill, a fresh car, that's probably a lot more important. He could probably still do faster laps, even though he had fewer cars to try and overtake up farther in the field. So I think this is a good call. He could maybe gain some time on the leaders, even though he's going to be held up here and there.
Well, but on the flip side of that coin is the leaders are also being held up as they've just had to get around Todd Hansen. So everybody's dealing with traffic now.
Wow, look at third place, in fact, because Kane Halliburton's dealing with Dimitros Houdeludi as he comes back to try and make his stamp. The Greek driver really hounding the number 12 at this point. Doesn't have anything that he's close enough to make a pass here on the back half of the course, but a good launch off of diving turn could give him an opportunity down into 1.
And again, maybe he doesn't even want this until the pit window opens up, until it's time to stop. You'll see a lot of these guys just sit back there and save fuel. Somebody who's not been saving fuel is Jason Staney, since he's been out in front. That's where he stayed. He's doing all the work.
I don't think he minds too much. He's started from 4th place, so this extra clear air is probably good for him. It means he can run the pace that he wants and not have to worry about being held up or slowed down by the cars ahead, or really be at the risk of any damage if they make a mistake. He can really dictate what he does right now.
See him coming at you. I'm going to jump you around a little bit. How about we talk about 8th position, Joe? We really haven't talked much about these guys. This is Felipe Chavin in a nice battle with Daniel Sadro.
Yeah, and I was just looking at these guys as well. They're pretty familiar with us here in the Weekend Warriors. Chavin leading the way there. You see in that black machine, the red and white, that is Sadro as they come through West Bend. And looks like, even though he's holding him at bay at about 0.3 of a second, this is that important corner that I was talking about. Getting that run off of there, just trying to put the power down. You don't even have to brake for that corner, Bill. It's all about how quickly you dare put that little lift in and then squeeze the throttle back on.
And there we go. You can look at Chavin and Sadro going at it.
Oh, Staney's off. Our leader is off. This was in the left-hander.
And it actually looks like it starts way back in 2 and 3. The car started, or 1 and 2. The car started to get loose, but then he got it gathered up, and then, my gosh. Boy, again, Joe, I think it's almost hardware.
Yeah, I'm watching it on my screen one more time. There we saw it on the replay. He comes back very quickly, though, which I don't know if it'd be hardware or what. If it was a hardware issue, it was very, very brief. Now, that does put him down in 5th, but make it 4th because he's already trying to overtake Elson.
And he gets Elson. This actually could be the best news for Steven Elson, who was losing ground to the front. So now he's got somebody with maybe the speed to pull onto the coattails up and see if he can get pulled up there. Let me give you the gap now.
Oh,
well,
and
look at
Fraser
Williamson. Yeah.
Just through Big Bend once again. This one, in this case, he just went in way too hot, slipped out to the dirt. And Bill, once you hit that dirt, it is like a magnet. You cannot bring it back until you slow the car up.
I'm amazed that he didn't go out into the grass and put it in the wall. And the car just got loose ever so slightly. But watch this. It's just a little twitch. You'll see it in the rear end. So once again,
we need to go back a little farther. It happened in Big Bend.
There it is, right there.
Oh, so excuse me. I guess there we go. Yeah.
He got it on the replay, so now we're good. So, my goodness, the curse of the leader happens to Numb. It happens to the next 2 drivers that we just saw there. That happened to Williamson and Staney.
And now he loses one to Staney, who's working his way back forward. This is really unusual. Usually the drivers at the top end of the fields in this series, Bill, are really cool characters. So I wouldn't assume that it's pressure, but wow, 3 times like unforced errors.
Well, now it's Grease Lightning who is your leader with the mistakes happening in front of him. So Hoodaloo's ahead of Halliburton.
Wow, started from 7th position up to the top spot now. I almost wonder, with the traffic he's coming up to, maybe now is a good time for Dimitri to come in.
Boy, and there was can we look at Nico Skuk, car number 87, right in front of Murakami? I'm not sure. There's no incident cap, but Murakami blinks out here. Let's see if my director can find them. Oh, no. There is ghost contact. Watch. Do you see it right there? Murakami in the candy-colored car disappears and actually hits him. This is a little bit of talk about ghost contact. What you'll see here is Shuck gets loose, and then Murakami will disappear. Oh, no, he doesn't. You can see it. He disappeared on my screen. Nice center punch.
Yeah, I remember Murakami had a slight touch with Nim Cross earlier. That could have been a 4X. Oh, well, wait. No, you said there is no incident.
There is no incident cap, so yeah. Huh. Well, he stayed on the director screen. And on mine, he disappears, but there you see it right there. That's a good hit. So, another big name having trouble.
Well, this is pretty much in line with what we were kind of expecting, that this big of a field. First race of the season, too, so you got some drivers that maybe aren't as familiar with one another, Bill. So I compared it to Bristol. This is looking very Bristol in its road course form, with just a lot of contact, a lot of drivers getting damaged and having to carry on. We're going to see very few cars that haven't used up their free repair by the end of this thing.
Couple lap cars now who are not in a battle. This is Jeroen Ursum in 32nd. He's ahead of Antonio Reese. Reese, we saw, have issues. These guys will try to get out of the way because here comes the leaders. It's 32 seconds back to Errol Num, the leader of all the cars who've pitted so far. Oh my goodness, they're going to try to make a pass.
Yeah, that uphill is not where you want to go too wide. And I don't think that was intentional. Jeroen just was trying to run his race, and our leaders got too impatient. Now, what paint scheme does he have on this time? Jeroen usually gives us a fun time with these things. I'm trying to figure out what he's got going on.
It looks rather normal here for us. Of course, This is not his usual car. So.
Oh, no, he's got the Viagra car.
Oh, okay. There's Antonio Reese getting out of the way of the leaders.
Oof.
There we go.
Remember what I said, Bill. There's some things that you can control and some things you cannot. And the leaders are gritting their teeth as they go through some of these slower cars, just praying, keep control, be predictable. That's all I want from you.
Let's go up to Hoodalootas right now because he's coming up on a pack of them. Christopher Smith and Chris Murakami, who's still out there racing.
Yeah, I'm sure Murakami was not wanting to be lapped today. He was hoping for most likely a top 10 out there, and that's probably what his pace would have merited. I mean, the race isn't over. He could still try and climb back up, but it's going to be hard going because we just crossed that halfway marker.
Peter decides to stay out as he goes around. That car that was off, that was Mikhail Vasilescu.
You know, interesting point here, Bill. I'm looking at the time that Ironam was in the pits. It was about 24 seconds cone to cone. Now, right now, he is the highest pitter, and he's about 31 seconds behind. You take in and out you take out the in and out time that you lose on those laps. That should be roughly 30 seconds. So he's still racing our leaders, is Ironam, from 13th right now.
And remember, he's the pole sitter, so he's going to be fast. And everybody's working on traffic. Everybody has issues now. It's the leaders are out there negotiating stuff.
Still our highest pitter, even with Zachary Rivard coming back out in 13th. So this promotes Nome to 10th now as a few more cars have come in. Nome's going to have to, this is for position. This is Niket just ahead of him in that 303.
It's a bit of a full position, though, because Niket still needs to make his stop. And I'm sure Arrow is trying to telepathically send that message to him.
If I know Nome, though, he's not too fussed about that. He knows that he just has to keep doing what he does and take what he's dealt. Nome's a very cool character. We've seen that multiple times. And it looks like right now the racing gods will smile on him as the cat gets out of the way.
That is an understatement when you say he is a cool character. He is very cool. Fred Desai has an off. We don't need to go there. Racing in 25th.
So as we continue to watch our pole sitter lead around, Nim Cross Jr. Hopefully Nim doesn't get any protests here in this race that he has to deal with.
The guy you gotta keep an eye on is Jason Staney now as he's working around.
All right, Williamson is in. And is it just me, or does he have more damage? Oh, okay, no, he had a cone stuck on the car that looked like damage from my angle. But no, this is one of the drivers racing Nome, and Nome is coming off of West Bend and heading into the diving turn right now.
Boy, it seems like a long way to go, but now he's out on the front straight.
This is going to be a little close. I think Frazier's going to be up to speed with maybe about 5-second gap between them, so he should be pretty safe.
Frazier is out. He's got to deal with the lapped car of Jefferson Padavani to get around. Looks like now there is a battle for position. Kim Reisberg behind him, but Reisberg still needs to make his stop. Num's about 5 seconds back.
So within touching distance, he's lost a little bit of time since we last looked, but not a whole lot. I think this race is very much still on.
The interval I wanted to talk about, and he's coming, is between second and third. Jason Staney, as he works his way around Smith.
Wow, not waiting for anything there.
No.
That is incredibly risky to do, going the long way around a slow car like that. Because if that car outbrakes himself into there, Bill, you're a sitting duck. You just have no way to avoid it.
Oh, and he has another slow car to go around. That was Jomo, who just had an off, racing in 17th spot. But the interval, because of that traffic, Halliburton has about 2 seconds on Staney, but Staney's coming if he can get some clear track to race.
Now, here's the interesting thing. Houdeludi still has Halliburton close to him. Our top two have not separated. So I wonder if Halliburton, since he qualified well ahead of Dimitri, if he's biding his time, or is this actual pace that we're seeing?
Halliburton back there racing in second. These guys cannot be too slow, or they're going to let Staney back into the party here. Oh, man. Halliburton really sawing on the wheel.
These cars are fun like that. If you know how to drift them a little bit, and with these slippery conditions, they're probably doing that a lot. You can really kind of slide it in. You can rotate the rear on entry and really power off, which is ideal, Bill, because these actually have a lot of understeer, like monstrous understeer. So the more that you can get the car to be loose on entry, but controllable loose, the faster you're going to be.
Really is a driver's car as we ride off the back of Houdeludi, looking back at Halliburton. Both these cars still need to pit.
I really suspect this is Kane just waiting for things to come to him, because he's been holding that gap really, really consistently.
It also may be he's seen 3 drivers in the lead have trouble. Maybe he just doesn't want part of that either.
Well, so far, Dimitri is the only one that hasn't fallen afoul.
Hey, I got a good battle for you. Can we go to 10th position real quick? This is Andres Bertoni. He's being challenged by Michael Shaw. I believe all these guys still need to make their pit. Daniel Sadro in the mix, and Stevie Ray. A nice 4-car battle up front for 10th.
Ooh, and look at them snake down the front stretch. Bertoni does not feel safe. I don't think Shaw's close enough. Oh, no! Gets into the back of him, outbreaks himself. That's going to send him wide. Sadro takes him, and Stevie Ray takes him.
Kept the car out of the sand, though, so he was able to get back in there. So Shaw falls from 11th to 13th.
Damage control for the Canadian driver, unfortunately. Still looking at Frazier being our highest pitter ahead of Nome, and that gap has stayed about the same, but there's nobody between them now, Bill. About 5.8 seconds.
And this is where I feel sorry for Jeffrey Murphy. We can go back to that battle for 10th as they're going to be coming up on somebody. As a back marker, it's easy to let 1-2 cars by, but when you have a 4-car train coming, luckily, he gets them at a perfect spot down the straight. A little lift. 1, 2, 3, 4, they all go by, get back on the throttle.
I think he gave up a little too much, though.
Yeah, actually, that was a bit too much, but he wasn't really.
Oh, look at the battle, though.
Up front.
Sadro versus Bertoni. Sadro's going to try the high side. I really would not recommend that unless you're trying to maybe cut down like it looks like he tried to do there on the late apex. Didn't work, but he also put himself at a big risk for Stevie Ray to overtake him.
And that's that defensive line down into 1 is not the fastest. You're not going to run your fastest lap that way, but you'll stay ahead of the guys that are trying to chase you. You can leave the inside open, and the guys get a decent run out of that final corner. They can slingshot underneath you.
Yeah, look at what this has done to him. Stevie Ray is fawning all over the back of Daniel's car at this point. And if they don't watch out, Shaw could take advantage of exactly what Shaw did, which is if they go side by side, he could slip on through with more momentum.
The top 5 still led to pit. Houdeludi, Halliburton, Staney, Elson, and Stefanini. Also, Philip Chavin also in there. 6 cars still waiting to come in.
This is really our best battle at this point with these 4. Oh, way wide up at the front. It's not just our leader, it's the lead of any pack, it seems, that is susceptible. Bertoni goes way back, and then there were 3.
Take another look at it. And that time he didn't have to take the defensive line. You know, he'd been racing that defensive line so much, maybe he forgot how to race the fast line.
Yeah, I think he clipped a little bit of that inside curb. That got him loose. That slid him wide. And once again, you hit that dirt, and it's good night.
Michael Shaw says, I made that mistake too, but I was able to keep the car off the sand, and that's why I'm still in the mix here.
Oh, one of our front runners taking a pit. Chauvin is in his stall. Let's see, where was he running before this?
6th position. I'll be surprised if he gets out before Williamson and Num.
Oh, no, they're long gone.
Yeah. Yeah, Rivard is going to get him.
Oh, no, and he's got that's Francois van Dornveld just ahead of him, who was very slow trying to let Kim Risberg, who he was racing, go through. And look at how much it held up. If he hadn't been slow, which now he goes off course in the left-hander. Whoops. But Chauvin would have been up right on the gearbox of Kim. Of course, looking at the damage on the front of Kim, he might still catch him.
Staney made his stop. He's in and out.
Oh, and Williamson is right there.
Behind him. That was Staney loose in front. Staney behind Kern and Palmer.
He's still gathering it up. Wow, stayed all the way to the inside. That car was all sorts of loose.
Still working it. That's the same corner that got him in trouble originally the first time, and Williamson is right there. And this is good news for Num, who's still about 5 seconds back, though.
Leader pits. Demetrio is in. Kane continues on. All right, so now he's freed of Dimitri. This is going to be very telling. How fast can Kane go without the Greek driver ahead of him? Everybody pretty much coming in at this point.
Okay, Staney and Williamson are out of the final corner. And Halliburton did not pit. Houdalutis is out. Boy, Houdalutis comes out in traffic as well.
Staney lifted, I think, though. Williamson got a run on him, and I think Jason just decided to let him have it. That was Wayne Palmer we saw their flash of off track.
Bob Kern in front of the drivers who are second and third of the cars who have pitted.
Remember what you talked about, waiting and saving fuel? Kane Halliburton still going. He is the only car in this whole field who has not pitted, and he's doing 2 more laps than anybody.
If we can go to Houdalutis right now, I'd show you something that might determine the race here. Look behind Houdalutis. He got out Desai, Reese, and Cross. After he made a stop, he had those 3 cars that he got out, got around 1, but at least he didn't have to get through all of them.
Yeah, this is the exact thing that Williamson does not want to see, is a whole bunch of back markers between you and the car ahead. He would have really liked if those back markers had come out ahead of Dimitri.
Absolutely. Well, Joe, we talked about Kane sitting back there saving fuel. Apparently, he did a good job of it, and in theory, his pit stop should be shorter as he needs less petrol.
And this is a really smart thing from Kane, honestly, because with this being such a short track, look at this. Is he going to still stay out? Yes, he is. Wow.
Oh, my goodness. And right in front of, we were looking at P11 there. That was Bertoni. There was a spin right in front. It was Daniel Sadro. Sadro, who was racing in 13th position, or racing ahead of him. A veteran driver. Again, corner number 1. We'll see if we can find this down into 1.
I told you, it's a danger zone. Looks like Jomo had an off just around him. You'll see a flash of him on screen there. But driver error. This car is tricky around this track.
Okay, it is time for Kane Halliburton to come in and make his stop now. I'm just saying it's time. You're the leader, you're the last one. You just got around to run Erston.
I mean, honestly, he's still out catching lightning bugs right now, and his mom's yelling at him to come in. This is look. All right, there we go. Now he's in.
Time for dinner. Oh boy, he really locks him up coming in. Be careful. But he needs a speeding penalty.
Yeah, this is that's one of the things I didn't talk about is you can come in really fast and risk getting a speeding penalty. Where is Dimitri? He's coming out of the final corner. And Kane is moving. This is going to be awful, awful tight. I think Dimitri's got him because he's got the momentum. Just barely chops him off at the apex. Oh my goodness, Bill. 1/10 quicker in the stall, and I think Kane could have had him.
Yeah, he still might be in the spot where he wants to be back in second position. That's where he won the whole race.
So now the battle is on. And this is what Williamson wants, who is actually gaining time. It was about 5 seconds before. It's now down to 2.5. If Halliburton and Hudaludi are going to start battling side by side, they're going to start losing time hand over fist. There's really no good corner where you can fight with one another and not lose time. I'm sure Frazier is just egging. Oh no, Frazier just had an off. Frazier in West Bend. And this started actually in the uphill. We might want to even go a little. Here we go. Yeah, we're going to see. He just goes a little bit too hot into the corner, never really gathers it up. And by the time he tries to brake for West Bend, that car snaps on him. Oh, and he hit. Oh, I didn't see that in my replay. He took a hard hit into the wall there, too. That is a good result. Absolutely handed away, Bill.
And there's a battle for the lead. Let's go to the battle for third. This is Elson, and look who's got there now. Errol Num right behind him.
Damage control for Eero Num. I don't know that he's going to be able to catch the leaders at 10 seconds back with 4 minutes to go.
Some of the big names around him have, he's going to finish in front of. So with these final 4 minutes of racing to go, we will focus our attention up near the front. We'll keep an eye on Hudalidis and Halliburton in a battle. In fact, let's go up front right now. They're side by side into one. The Grease Lightning took a defensive line into one. Halliburton tried to do it on the outside. I don't know, Joe, if we've seen that work once so far this race.
No, but, you know, Kane may have been playing possum for the rest of the race, but now the gloves are off. Now it's just a run to the line, and it's pretty easy to figure out how many laps we have left here, because when they come to the line at 58-second laps, just about 3 minutes.
Right on board with the driver in second, looking up at the leader. They got some traffic in front of them.
I don't know who that was off track, but he was awful close. I was Guillermo Cravo.
Kelly Nickett had to get out of the way. Now they're coming up on Jerome Erzum, a veteran.
This is a great opportunity for Kane. He could possibly use this car as a pick, or they could go 3 wide. What's Jerome going to do? He sees it coming. He brakes a little bit early and lets them through. Poor Kane didn't get the opportunity. He probably should have ducked down to the inside a little bit sooner than that.
Let's go to third as Errol Num dives down into one inside of Elson. They go like Cialis fast rips through 1 and 2. Give the advantage to Num as he moves up into third.
I think Elson knew that was going to be a hard ask, keeping Eero back behind him for 3 whole laps. It looks like he's going to still give a try at getting it back as he pokes and prods through the S's, but no dice there.
So we'll keep an eye on that one, but we'll focus our attention here for the final 2 minutes up on the front.
This is going to be awful tight on how many laps they have left, actually. As they cross the line, 3 laps to go.
That may play a part of how much fuel they decided. Did they calculate? It's one of the things when you have a timed race, you really don't know how many laps you need. And now the leaders come up behind Fitterer and Benison.
And Kane is the one I think you have to wonder about, because he tried to fuel save and basically go so much longer and get a little bit of a shorter stop potentially down to the end here. I don't think Dimitri was pushing it as hard, although he could have taken a short stop. I didn't really see anything that says to me that's the case. So really my eyes are on the number 12, Bill.
Well, this is a backmarker's nightmare. 2 laps to go, and the leaders in the battle coming up behind you in the technical section of the track. Donald Fitter just needs to race his line right now. Hootaludas might have to wait until it opens up and come out of that final corner.
And is this for position?
No, it is not. But nevertheless, Fitter in the blue car goes to the inside.
Oh, oof, awful tight there, and still not getting out of the way.
Venison at least gets out of the way. Now there's just this one car to deal with. Oh my goodness! Oh, I got crazy about that move.
Dimitri's getting impatient, and I don't blame him. By this point, you would have expected that Fitterer would have pulled over. All right, there he goes. Off to the right side. Just breathe the throttle. There. That's a good place to let them through. Boy, Dimitri's probably breathing a sigh of relief that Kane didn't get a better opportunity as we now ride on board with Halliburton.
I can sympathize with Fitterer. It looks like he's blocked, but really, sometimes you don't want that back marker racing a line he's not familiar with. Sometimes it's just got to wait. Now they come around this final corner, and that means now Hootaludas is going to see the white flag. This is the last bite of the apple Halliburton will have into corner number 1, Joe. And look at the defensive line the Grease Lightning is taking. Now he starts to ease over. They are side by side. The momentum to Halliburton on the outside. Can he make it stick? The Greek driver fights back, and he's going to have the advantage now as they head into the only left-hander.
Ooh, covers off the inside. A little bit of contact from Kane. He gathers the car back together. Hopefully that didn't damage the suspension of Dimitri.
They look good, and now they go up the hill to 5.
There's really no other chances. The only thing that Kane can hope for is a monster run off of diving turn, Bill.
Yeah, and that start-finish line comes up pretty quick out of that final corner. Right now, Halliburton back there looking for any mistake that Hootaludas might make. This is it. They head to the final corner. He's in pretty good shape, and I'm talking about Halliburton. He's got a pretty good run, but I just don't think there's going to be enough real estate. Give the opening round of the Weekend Warriors to Demetrius Hootaludas. Kane Halliburton will have to settle for second.
6/100ths at the line, Bill. That is tight.
Num gets third. Elson gets fourth. David Stefanini gets fifth. I'll quickly go to the back of the field. There's a battle for 9. No, that's not looking for any battles out there. I don't see any more left as there are 12 cars on the lead lap. The last one, Chris Murakami, he comes across. And that means the racing is over here at Lime Rock Park, but our broadcast is not. We'll take a short break. Don't go far. We'll be back to run down the entire finishing order, talk to some of the drivers before we put a lock on the gate. Back in a few. from Lime Rock Park, welcome back to GSRC's round run coverage of the SRF Weekend Warrior, sponsored by Sim Stickers. The first race is in the books. Let's run down the finishing order. And my gosh, it was a pretty darn exciting race. Grease Lightning, Demetrius Houtaludis gets the win. He finishes ahead of newcomer Kane Halliburton. And boy, it was exciting. 6/100ths of a second separated those guys at the finish line. Errol Num found disaster from the front, was able to salvage a third-place finish. That was the same story for David Stefanini as he comes home in fourth. Zachary Rivard in fifth. Another guy up front, Jason Staney, had trouble. He comes home in sixth. Stephen Elson gets seventh position. Michael Shaw in eighth. The last two cars of your top 10, Andres Bertoni and Stevie Ray. Joe?
Daniel Sadro is going to take it home in 11th with Chris Murakami in 12th. Donald Fitterer went from 24th to 13th. How's that? And he did qualify, Bill, so that does count as a hard charge. Kelly Niquette will finish in 14th with Fred Desai finishing in the 15th position. Nim's got to discover the secret a little bit more. He finishes in 16th, which is one position down from where he started. Bob Kern is going to finish in 17th with Jefferson Pedalvani in 18th, Wayne Palmer in 19th, and Antonio Reese in 20th.
Hidden Blackjack Kim Reisberg. The double duck spot goes to Jomo. Gary Wolbach in 23rd ahead of Jens Nordstrom. 25th position is Dale Bennison. He's going to be followed by Christopher Smith. Francois Van Nordenveld goes in 27th position. Esanumi behind him. 29th and 30th, Jeroen Ursum and Todd Hansen.
Then in 31st, boy, Fraser Williamson. He's got to be a little bit annoyed that that one got thrown away, especially with an error on his part in the final parts of the race. He finishes 32nd. Jeffrey Murphy 31st. Guillermo Cravo and Guillermo Cravo 33rd. Philippe Chauvin 34th. Mihail Valescu 35th. Nico Schuk 36th. David Burnell 37th. And Sean Fisher in 38th.
And that'll wrap it up. So now let's go ahead and talk to our interviewee. And we just have one so far. It's our defending champion, the man who came home third, the Roland Estonian. It is Errol Num. We'll wait for Errol Num to come down into the booth. And now we bring him down. We're still waiting here. And now we have Errol Num down with us. Errol, well, congratulations on the championship. And I guess third, a little mistake there in quarter number 5, huh?
Yeah, the rear tires were gone and I just hit the curb and got in the wall, yeah.
In practice, have you made that mistake before, or were you surprised when that happened to you?
I think it happened only once, so yeah, it was a little surprise, but yeah.
Does the weather play a big factor with this car? Boy, it looked like you drivers were really working the machine out there today. How was the track feeling?
Yeah, actually it was better that it was hot, because if it's too cold, the car will bounce more, and for some reason. So the weather was fine.
Interesting. Well, it's good to see you start the season at the beginning. You took 4 races off last time. You're still able to get the championship. Should be easier for you now than you're here at the beginning. Hope you see you all the way through the season.
Yeah, still Boydum.
Errol Num, congratulations on a podium today. Joe?
Yeah, that podium will serve him well as the season goes on. The winner, though, today, Dimitrio Houtaludi, comes home with the victory from 7th on the grid. Did that shock you, Dimitri?
To be honest, I really wanted to start as higher as possible, because it's very difficult to catch up if the lead pack goes away. But fortunately, because of the issues in the beginning, I managed to stay in touch with people. And fortunately for me and fortunately for them, they started leaving one by one somehow.
And speaking of those issues, you had a front row seat to all the different incidents each of the leaders befell. Were you thinking about that at all once you get into the lead? Did it make you back off any, or did you not even notice?
To be honest, because we're about similar on pace with most of them. Talk about race pace, because I think I'm a little bit more experienced because I race the series regularly. I think that as long as the difference was about 2 seconds or more, I think I would be okay. Thankfully, Kane wasn't very aggressive after I passed him, so we managed to get along through the whole. Oh, I can't speak. I'm so tired. Through the whole duration of the race.
Yeah, well, it's understandable because that track is very tiring. Now, it's going to be a little bit different with a lot longer laps running the moto layout of Daytona. Do you savor those races where drafting is a huge factor and there's going to be a lot of swapping, or do you not like those?
I do not particularly like them because there will be a lot of lap traffic, which may play a role. The packs are much tighter, so they're prone to mistakes because of the nature of closed back racing. But at least it will be much less stressful track for the SRF. So it will be okay, I think.
All right. Well, congratulations on the win. I'd say you earned this one, even though the racing gods handed it to you a little bit there in the middle. You certainly fought hard at the end. Well done.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Bill?
And that's going to do it for us. Let's go ahead and thank the people who made this possible. How about everybody at the Weekend Warriors, and especially Stevie Ray for organizing the SRF series, and the good folks at Sim Stickers for supporting it. Check them out at simstickers.co.uk. And if you need some support because life can be challenging for men in the modern world, don't let it get you down. Talk to someone. Support for Guys wants to listen and wants to help you realize the potential of a happy life. Their goal to help you find new ways to cope with life's ups and downs. The approach is simple. Find what works for you and support that new path for a better tomorrow. A counselor is waiting to listen. Visit their website at supportforguys.com. You don't have to be local. Just visit supportforguys.com and you can find that happy life you've been looking for. The companies and equipment and software that you see on the screen now lets us stream cyberspace into your place. The original music that gives every GSRC broadcast that unique flavor and feel comes courtesy of Eric Eckham and June Lalonde. See the screen to have you contact each of them. Next up for the Sim Stickers SRF Weekend Warriors is round 2, Sunday, September 23rd from Daytona. GSRC will be there to bring you that round and every round of Season 7, and we hope you join us. Sliding across your screen now are just some of the upcoming broadcasts, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. If you'd like to find out more information about GSRC, including a complete list of future broadcasts, you can find it all at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. And while you're here, if you haven't done so yet, subscribe by simply hitting the button on this YouTube channel. Finally, on behalf of the crew, Joe, Sean, and Dougie, I'd like to thank all of you for watching. And on a personal note, let me send a simulated virtual hug to Francis in Nebraska. And with that bit of self-indulgence out of the way, we're off to have fun storming the castle. So until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.